Hello, friends. Hey, I trust you're doing well today. The weather is so up and down right now. Who knows? I mean, you may have to be inside. Who knows if you maybe have access to a swimming pool. If you don't, you can come out to the farm. You can jump in the pond. The kids call it a lake. Trust me, it's a pond. If I were you, I wouldn't get into it. It's a little on the brown side. But anyway, hey, we're glad that you chose to be with us in the studio today. We have Candace. Hey, Candace.
Hey,
Candace
Clay,
Moya.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Doing
So
well.
glad that you're here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I'm glad you did. So tell us about your family.
Well, I have 3 grown children. My oldest is 26, and my second oldest his name is Jacob. Sorry, my second oldest is Ethan. He is 20. He'll be 24 in August, and then my youngest is baby girl Caden, and she is turning 20 this year. 21. I'm sorry. She'll turn 21 this year. So, her name is Caden.
So I actually met Caden a few weeks ago at your church, and she was quick to explain to me about the name situation. And that's all we're going to go into today.
Yes,
okay?
yes. Well, but knowing that your granddaughter has the same name,
Yeah,
is just
my granddaughter's
wonderful.
name is Caden too. So,
And of course, I didn't mean to neglect to mention my husband. wonderful husband. I'm sorry. The mind goes to the children first.
yeah, we need to meet. We need to mention Bob since he's probably watching this, right?
Yes, Bob Moya. He and I have been married for almost 29 years this year. So it's been a wonderful journey. So.
Yeah. So how did you and Bob meet?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. We actually met at SAGU, which is now Nelson.
Yep.
But it'll always be SAGU in my heart because that's where I graduated. And we actually met in the registration line.
Oh.
He was standing in line, and he was standing right next to a friend of mine that I had known, and I wanted to talk to her. So I asked him if I could cut in line in front of him.
And he thought you were hitting on him, right?
Probably, yes. He's probably thinking, oh, here we go. And but that
New relationship.
Yeah. That was the start of a wonderful, I made a mark on him. I know I did. I just know I did. So.
I actually asked him that question too, and he let me know. Now he was in the military first. What branch was he in?
He was in the Air Force.
Okay, he was in the Air Force. So now he got his military life taken care of. Now he was serious about going to school, which is how he ended up at Southwestern, Nelson University. He was standing in line. He's all about business, and
Very serious.
This beautiful young lady asked to cut in line.
And I, by the way, was not serious. I just was wanting to have fun, just very green, if you will, naive. He had been around the world, and I was very naive and just so excited to be at college and around a bunch of, Bible school students. And here he was, been around the world, serious. He carried a briefcase all over campus.
Oh, there we go.
He wasn't dressed in your baggy shorts or, your polo T-shirt. He had on a button-up tie, briefcase, and you know what? He was on a mission the whole time, and I was like, that guy's going somewhere.
Yeah.
I want to talk to him.
So, where did you grow up at?
Well, I was raised in a pastor's home. My parents pastored mostly in West Texas my whole life, Lubbock, and also in Muleshoe, Texas.
Oh, I'm probably one of the few people that know where Muleshoe is. So.
If you know where Lubbock is, you probably know where Muleshoe is.
That's probably true. Yeah, you're probably right.
I was raised in a pastor's home and just in ministry all my life, in youth and in choir and things like that. And then probably when I was about 17, my parents went through a divorce, you know how that goes. And then we moved to Phoenix for a little while and then back to Dallas. And we joined in with my aunt and uncle and just lived in Dallas all those years since then.
So what was it like living in a pastor's home?
Well, I loved it. I really did. My parents did. I will have to give them a lot of credit. They did a good job of just, not really talking about the things, the good, the ugly stuff of ministry. So we were able to just enjoy ministry and, going to camp and, the just going through Sunday school with your church friends and things like that, and going to district and general council, and just those were kind of fun things as a kid. So I really enjoyed it. Being in church was fun for me. And so that I really, as far as the ministering to other people, my parents just let me be a kid in church growing up and tried to let me be one of them and not, oh, you're the pastor's kid kind of thing, you know. And so I loved it.
It's interesting you mentioned that. As I was driving here today with my granddaughter, I've been a part of churches that they had one set of expectations for the pastor's kids and a different set of expectations for the other kids. And those pastor's kids, for the most part, didn't turn out too well.
No, I'm afraid not, oftentimes.
I even mentioned to her that, some people know we have planted a church on Sundays from the kids who come to Sunday school, and we've actually, it's been a crazy journey. We've actually had church almost every day of the week that you can think of, just trying to figure out something that worked for us, particularly with me traveling on Sundays. So, but last year, Timothy became the lead pastor of the church, and we're meeting Sunday mornings now at the Life School building at the Lighthouse. And I was there one week we weren't traveling, and I saw these kids, little kids, running around the church. Now, for most people, that drives them nuts. But I'm looking at that and going, look how far we have come.
Yeah.
I see that nothing as healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Not a problem. You know, I'd rather there's all kinds of places that could be running around that morning.
Right. That's right.
Places that could be even detrimental for them, you know. So, well, you and Bob met. How long did y'all date?
A little over 3 years.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
So was that so y'all would get through school, or what was the...
Yes. Mainly, he was already going into his junior year. I was just starting out, and when we met, I was starting out, and so he knew that we needed to stay focused, before we get married, and we actually got married the weekend after I graduated, so it was graduation one weekend.
Into life.
Yes. But we were ready. I mean, he was 25. I was 20. No, I'm sorry. He was 28 when we got married. I was 24, and we were ready to start life. And we had already done children's ministry. I did a little bit of bus ministry with him too before he went on to be a children's pastor.
In the metropolis of Haltom City.
Yes.
That's where I met Bob.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
And I was raised in church, but we didn't do a lot of outreach. And so that was my first, we were into missions. We supported missions and evangelists and things like that. But we didn't do a lot of outreach to the community and areas that my parents pastored. So it was eye-opening for me, and it was wonderful. It just filled my heart, in a way that hadn't been before in ministry. And so I really enjoyed it. We still keep connections with some of those. They're adults now, the children that we minister. I got to know them a little while, not as long as he did, but so yeah. And then we moved on to children's ministry and youth ministry when we were married. So
there are churches out there that they're not outreach oriented. It's such a balancing act. You got to feed the house.
Yeah.
But there also has to be a venue for that feeding to overflow into the community. So what would you say to someone right now? They're struggling with that. Do we put all our eggs inside the house, or do we reach out to our community? How do you balance all that?
Well, you have to do it. You just have to make a concerted effort, because I know when growing up we didn't do that, and of course there's benefits. I mean, not benefits, but there's an importance of focusing in on the people in house. You have to do that because they have to grow.
Yeah.
But if you want to grow the church, if you want to bring people into the kingdom, which is what we're supposed to be doing,
right.
You have to go outside the walls. Yes, people can invite invite people to church, and yeah, you can have events to invite people to come, but going out, going among the people that are in the community that wouldn't necessarily darken the church doors, letting them see God's love outside of the church, that's so important. And it's something about the new Christians that bring life to the seasoned Christians, because after serving the Lord a while, sometimes you can get weary, even though you still have faith, and that newness is always good to keeping the new people, the new believers, Christians in the church constantly. It feeds, if you will, the older Christians, and I like the life. There has to be life in the church, or it's just a dead church. And why are we gathering?
Your husband and I went to Phoenix a lot of years ago to pastor school, and the first night that I saw Pastor Tommy do the illustrated sermon and the altar call, and there was over 100 people that gave their heart to Christ that night. I'd never seen anything like that before, and I went, these people know how to do church different than what I've been a part of. So how do you do that? And I totally agree with, there's something about, now, new converts are going to have some rough edges.
Oh, yeah. That is true.
And for most of us, I want to use my words, I want to choose my words closely, because I don't want a lot of statements on this. I don't want to say salvation is a process, because it's not. The process of salvation is you accept Christ as Savior.
Right.
You admit, hey, I'm a sinner. I need a Savior. I need forgiveness, and Christ did that. But sanctification is a process, and I know I'm going to probably get some comments on that. Let's say both of us sometime. Don't do that. Let's don't get caught up on the little things. Let's get caught up on the big things, and His name is Jesus. Are you with me on this, friends? But for most of us, sanctification is a process.
It's walking out.
Exactly.
Salvation.
Exactly. So I think that's the one thing that makes us a little nervous. They're going, why didn't you went down there? Well, first off, a lot of us got a lot of baggage, man.
Yes, absolutely.
And we don't even realize that, that needs to be underneath the blood, too. That needs to be and so it's a process.
Absolutely.
So, they're probably going to say some things at first. You're kind of going to go,
Oh, yeah.
Are they going to wear maybe a little less clothes than what they probably should wear, They're going to say words. You're going to go, you can't say that in church, It's a process. Right. But there's also, as you mentioned, there's a newness there.
I love that.
And it's a reminder to us of what Jesus did in our life. And all of a sudden, we're kind of going, I need to be sharing this with the people that I rub shoulders with every day.
Right.
So about 25 years ago, probably, you and Bob had this crazy idea of planting a church in the metropolis of Arlington, Texas. Why Arlington?
Well, the Lord had just spoken to us, or my husband specifically, to in the South Arlington area. He just kind of placed it upon his heart, and we felt like there was a lot of Arlington was young and booming, and a lot of interracial married couples, and we felt like we need to try to connect with the people that are like us, and that's why we felt such a call there. And of course, the Lord confirmed things in many different ways there. So that's just where we felt, and it was very strong for us. We knew the area well, having lived in the Grand Prairie, Arlington, but mostly the Arlington area, and God just actually even showed. We were driving down looking for a house one particular day, and the Lord just showed my husband that field is white for harvest. And it was like boom, and it was a particular field, but he was speaking of the area. But and we knew, and the Lord just miraculously opened doors over the next year or so, and we knew it was a God thing. And so, and he, you know as well as I do that he always confirms things, and you just walk through those doors that he opens for you, and he makes a way.
Yeah. So you mentioned about Arlington being diverse. As someone who grew up in Arlington, Texas, Arlington was not diverse when I lived there as a child growing up. And even talk to us about how the city's changed just since you guys have been there. Because, I mean, it's changed a lot since you've been there.
Yeah. Even since in 2013, we moved out to Midlothian. And the area that we lived in South was basically, we were on the line of Mansfield, Arlington, where we lived there. We had an Arlington address, but our children were in the Mansfield School District, so we were right there. And so it was when we moved in there, it was still a younger community still. All the younger families, couples are moving in that area. But the dynamics, cultural dynamics shifted a little bit while we were there. But then when we moved in 2013, from then until now, because my in-laws moved into our house that we lived in there in South Arlington, and so we were there all the time, holidays and just different events, and we saw how it was changing, and just very diverse. And I mean, to me, I'm Jesus go anywhere, but I just think God called us there. What an opportunity to be able to minister in an environment like that.
Yeah. I was with a young pastor from a third world country. I would like to mention his name, but maybe I shouldn't. Was tortured because of his faith in Christ. And he let me know that Arlington is one of the fastest growing Muslim cities in America. You add to that the Southeast Asia influence in Arlington,
in
particularly
part.
South Arlington. South, well, you guys are in Southwest, South Central, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe even Southeast. You don't have to go around the world to see the world.
That's right.
In Arlington, Texas anymore. It's a very, very diverse group that just needs Jesus.
Absolutely. It feels like a mission field right there.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So you've been a pastor's wife now. I think you guys actually launched the church about 24 years ago. Am I right on that? You've been a pastor's wife this entire time. If there's any role, first off, I'm not even Mr. Mom. Okay, so, well, what's it like being a pastor's wife? You've been doing it for 24 years now. Yes. You've seen the good and the other.
Yes, the other. We'll just call it the other. Yes. Well, I mean, it's like I said, I was raised in a pastor's home. I had my mom was a wonderful pastor's wife, and I felt like she set a great example. She was just really. I'll do what I need to do, whatever needs to be done. She was the women's ministry director. She was the worship leader, and whatever Sunday school class, whatever she needed to do. So she kind of set that example of as just what needs to be done, I'm going to do it. And she was personable and loving and compassionate. And I saw her all the time, and I wanted to be in ministry, but specifically a pastor's wife because of her example, role model, my whole life. And that was just in my heart, And so then, and that's the reason why, Bible college, I was like, I went to get a degree, but also if I'm going to find a pastor to marry, it's going to be at Bible college. And of course, on registration day, he was right there. I didn't know it at the time, but anyway, and it was perfect.
Strange how the Lord works things out, right?
And so little did I know that was going to happen. And incidentally, years before that, we had run into each other and been in the same place at Christian events that we never met each other, but we realized we had been there and seen and been in the same place, and it was like the Lord was just lining up. But anyway, I know that God brought us together, and he was a lot more experienced in the outreach, and I was more experienced in ministry as far as just being in it. we weren't exposed to a lot of the other stuff. Like I said, we saw the good mostly, and for the first
there's another side?
Yes.
Is that what you're telling us?
There's the other side.
And that's what we're here today. We're going to talk to the other side because there's wives out there that sometimes it's unfair expectations,
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, I have a close friend, and him and his wife started out as evangelists. So before he could marry this young lady, his mother-in-law said, now you'll have to play the keyboard because I want to say his name.
Mm-hmm.
When he travels, you'll have to take and play the key. Well, she didn't want to play the keyboard.
That would have been a problem for me.
So they bought her. You'll love this, Chris. They bought her an accordion, and now you know who I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they would travel, and she would take the accordion just in case there wasn't a keyboard at the church,
Yeah.
So that was her stick. She had to. So to this day, she still loves that accordion.
Wow. Well, I honestly wish that I would have been more serious about taking piano lessons because that would have helped me tremendously in leading worship. But, it didn't happen. But, so we didn't really have any other issues in our church. We were like in a honeymoon phase in our church that we planted for probably a good 10 years, 7 to 10 years. We didn't know any of this other stuff. And so it was just, there was a lot of exciting new people being added to the church and just nothing but excitement and, ministry and outreach and worship and word and all of that. And support. Everybody was so supportive. And then when the other things started happening, it just, the enemy wants you to focus on that more than the positive. And it's easy to do.
Absolutely.
Because you have to do, I guess, you trust the Lord, but you have to do damage control to a certain extent without talking a lot about it because you don't want to talk a lot about it. But the less you focus on the problem and more on the solution and the people that are adding to the church and not tearing down, you're better off doing that. And just relying on God's grace just to deal with the other stuff. But I got energy. Obviously, the Lord is our strength. But as far as the people you're interacting with, I got energy from those that were like, we're not getting involved in mess and causing problems and all of this. We want to build the kingdom of God, and those are the individuals that we have wanted to focus on over the years, as opposed to the other. So that helps ministry be easier. Not to say or to diminish how the other stuff can be real and can affect lives and wear on you. After a while, it. But, we saw Jesus do it. With Jesus, we can read Jesus had to deal with the other stuff. And, he did it with love and grace and kindness. And you just have to rely on his grace to deal with those. Sometimes you have the get thee behind me, Satan moments, and then you have the ones that just really, let me have 100 more of them, Right. That's what I want to focus on. We've had less of the get thee behind me, Satan moments, but,
I was just reading this week about Matthew. The same day, I don't know why I never saw this before, but the same day that Christ told Matthew to follow him,
mm-hmm.
Matthew invited him to his house.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know why, but for some reason I never realized it was the same day.
I didn't know that.
So Matthew invites all his buddies
mm-hmm.
to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the church people, the priests, they were there too. And so they're going, what are you doing hanging out with those people,
mm-hmm.
you know? You don't even want to be seen with those people. And you're right, the Lord, he handled it real well. He said, I didn't come to... The sick don't need a doctor.
Yeah, that's right.
So there are... the dropout rate for pastors has never been higher
mm-hmm.
in America than it is today. I've gotten more phone calls the last couple of years. What's the church going to do? Is the church in America in trouble? So forth and so on. I went, you know what? Jesus was doing this. He's doing his business before we got here. I got a feeling he's going to be doing his business after we're gone too. So I said, I'm not too concerned about his church. I said, I'm concerned about his people, though. So, and for some, because of unrealistic expectations of pastors' wives or their children, they want them to be more saved than what the adults are. You know what I'm saying? And pastors' wives, a lot of people want them to be seen, but
yes, that is true,
but not heard. And sometimes I think that we even put them in a glass house. You can't be a person. What would you say to encourage? There's some pastors' wives out there that are watching today. They're looking for a rope.
Right.
Throw them a rope out there, sister.
Well, first of all, I would say that start with maybe the pastor and say, make sure that your wife and the church knows how valuable that she is to not only you as the pastor, but also to the church. Because, there is that whole stigma of just being like off to the side and really underappreciated. Not that it's about appreciation, but but there's many pastors.
They are under. Let's just tell it like it is. They are underappreciated. Yes. Okay, that's why we're talking today.
Well, I'm not saying that I speak from experience of being, but you can go through seasons like that. I feel very blessed.
We run in a circle of pastors, so we know what's going on.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
So we can talk about it in general.
Yes.
Okay,
and I will say that the reason why I start with the pastor is because one of the things that my husband has always done from the get-go was very kindly and very humbly just tell everyone, I'm going to go the next mile with you. If you have a problem, anything, we can talk about it. But don't ever go up to my wife or my children and lambaste them, or in a way, that you should come to me first and talk to me. I'll be glad to deal with whatever.
He's a spiritual leader for the church. He's also the spiritual leader for his family.
Yes, yep. because he, I guess the Lord gave him the insight at a younger stage in our early stage in our ministry that there would be that, as a PK, they would experience that whole, extra, critical on the preacher's kids and higher expectations and things like that. And so he was like, they're not above getting in trouble, but come and talk to me first. I am their pastor as well as their father. But anyway, that would be the first thing that I would say. It's for the pastor to set that, the church to know that this isn't a just my sidekick over here or just over there, but she's my partner in ministry. Absolutely. We need each other. And anyway, that, and also just to remember that she's a person, and the pastor's wives are a person walking out her faith, trusting in God to deal with all of the other people that are in the church and maintaining, the right attitude and heart and dealing with whatever struggles that you have. And sometimes she's going to be weak, and sometimes she's going to not, maybe respond in the right way, but have the same grace that you would want her to have with you if she were on the other foot. But I don't know, just to know that ministry isn't easy for the husband or the wife or the family in general. It's not. Maybe some pastorate positions are just perfect and they never have any problems.
I haven't met that.
I know. I haven't met either,
yet.
But I'm just have a little caveat there. But just know that it's not a bunch of roses and happy times.
It is roses. There's thorns on that.
Yes,
yeah,
that's right. That's right. And but at the same time, not to sound gloomy, there are those, and it weighs on you, because when somebody in the church goes through a difficult time. Yeah. Anybody, because we're a family, we're supposed to be a family. Right. It affects you as well, and right. So as the pastor and pastor's wife, you probably get to know the people a little bit better than maybe, just an average someone that comes to the church, and you don't know how much pain they might have gone through or, stress they might have been into because of this situation over here. So a little bit of mercy and grace there, but prayer is the biggest thing that I would say for a pastor and pastor's wife. Pray for them because they need it. And because that's the reason why you see so much of that going on at the pastors, leaving pastorate positions, and then it affects the whole church. Right. So when it's just like in a normal family, when the husband and the wife are strong and they're doing things the right way as Christians, praying and seeking God and leading the right way, then the family, it affects the rest of the family. And that same goes for the church. They're leading you. And my husband has always said, don't discourage your encourager. If your encourager is discouraged, then who's going to be the one to encourage you and exhort you? So, pray and our people, thank God, over the years we've had difficult times, but our people, we just had prayer last night, and one of our leaders, he prayed such a beautiful prayer, just touched my heart, because I just thought, thank you, Jesus, for people that are praying for us. Right. So
if you were to run into a younger version of you, what advice would you give yourself today?
I would just say, I know this sounds super spiritual, but pray more, because, it's in that secret place where you can hear from God, and He prepares you for what's coming, either that day, that hour, the tomorrow, whatever. And, you can respond and you can deal with the curveballs, if you will, because none of us know what tomorrow holds. Right. When you've been fortified with the Word of God and in the presence of God in that secret place. So, busyness of life can pull you away from that, but just maintaining the best you can that time intimacy with God. Right. And not letting yourself get distracted as much. I would say maybe I allowed myself to get distracted, maybe more than I would have liked to being able to prepare myself better for things. And the only way you can is with the wisdom and the strength of God. So that's one of the things I would say.
Of our journey to build these new facilities in the inner city of Dallas, the Lord has provided this land, and we've submitted the plans to the city, and we're going through that wonderful building process. Mm-hmm. The big part of this dream is to do this absolutely debt-free. We're building this church for the children of Dallas and the generations that are going to follow them. We need people to partner with us to do this. What would you tell people to ask them to help us today?
Well, first of all, we've known you for many years, my husband longer than I have, but, when we think about you, we talk very fondly of you, and we have a lot of faith in what God is doing with you. We know you were called, because you have to be called to do the type of ministry, and it has to be something from God, and it's very near and dear to God's heart what you're doing, and faithfully all of these years. So I would say, what better ministry to be partner with than Dallas Metro, going to the children and ministering to them and reaching out to them and making an impact to where now many of the children that you ministered to all those years ago are adults, and actually many of them in serving in ministry and making an impact on their families. I mean, that's such a tremendous ministry to be a part of, and honor to be a part of. And I know many, many other people believe the same thing, and we are proud to be partners with you guys and to be friends, to be called your friend, because we know you're a man of God. Your ministry is blessed of God, and He's surrounded you all these years with people that would help you build this ministry and carry out the ministry. And you can't do it without God's help, and He's the one that sends the people alongside you to help you. And He also provides for that ministry, and He has done that over the years, and He's going to continue to do it because it's a powerful and necessary ministry. So anybody that I can I can encourage this humble. I think he's a humble man of God. Nobody's perfect. I'm sure he would say that, but I don't know him. I don't know the imperfections. I've only seen just a great man of God and a blessing to the body of Christ.
Thank you, Candace. So glad you came today.
I'm so glad to have been invited.
Thank you for being here. I like that word you said, necessary. We need a church. It's important we're on the streets. It's important that we are bringing the gospel to them every day.
That's right.
But these kids also need a church, and so do their families.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. We now have children who are adults who are now leading.
That's right.
We need the church to rise up. I'm asking you to do that today, folks. Would you go to our webpage, dallasmetro.org, click on All In. We need your help today. We're ready to start. The city's working on the paperwork right now. We're going to pay cash for this. Two things going to happen. Number one, by paying cash, we are putting this next generation. This generation the Lord has already raised up. They're really not the next generation. They are this generation. Mm-hmm. We're putting them in a position to win, and then it's going to take the ministry to the next level. Think about that. That's two wins. Right. You can help us do that today. Go to dallasmetro.org, click on All In, look at the pictures that Michael's drawn, and then click on Donate Today. And I'm asking you to do it today. Consider making a one-time donation or maybe a commitment for the next 12 months. Together, we're going to see God do a miracle in our city. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week. God bless you. Bye-bye.